Welcome to Point Blank. This is my regular Thursday program where I discuss issues either in Nigeria or around the world. This week, I'll be touching on an issue that is not very familiar with a lot of people, but something that is starting to bother me. I have titled it Professional Politicians in Nigeria. We are breeding a new set of professional politicians. But I will do one thing. I will take a quick break to pay some bills and I'll be right back. But welcome to Point Blank. My name is Patrick Omosagi. Welcome back to Point Blank. Thanks for joining me. You can tweet at me at PJ Osage or follow me using the hashtag Point Blank. You can also follow or watch this program anywhere, anytime by going to our website, mbclivetv.com. So let's go to my first and only issue for today. This is the breeding of Nigerian politicians to become professional. This seems to be all they do now. We have a bunch of them that is starting to manifest in our system. Politicians, politicians, politicians. That's all they do. They have careers, they're lawyers, they're doctors, but all they do is politics. There have been arguments about whether this is good for a system. The system which we copied, which is the American presidential system, has the same thing. The average age of an American politician is 57 years old. 57. That is a little bit too high. The president, the outgoing president, Obama, was about 44 or 45 when he came into office. That means he's working with people that are 15 years his senior. I'm not advocating for a younger breed of politicians. All I'm advocating for is that we don't have politicians that spend 20, 25 years of their life trying to run other people. And that seems to be what we're breeding in Nigeria. So let's look at it on a side-by-side with the American system. The American Congress, that's the House of Representatives, they are elected into office every 2 years. And the lifespan of those guys about 4 terms, which is about 9 years, 4.5 terms, which is 9 years. That's the average they spend in office. To Americans, that's a little bit too high. What does this do to a system? The longer a politician stays in office, usually people say the more comfortable he becomes, and possibly the more corrupt he becomes, because he has so much power, so much influence of what goes on in his country. We've seen this in America. The average earnings or the average portfolio of an American politician is just slightly over $1 million. They don't have factories, but they have a lot of influence. They seem to buy the best shares. How do we know that? Because how does a man that is in public office that supposedly spends all that time in Washington, D.C., become rich through the market, the bond and share market? Nobody is saying that nobody can put a finger on corruption, but we know that influence is what they peddle. And looks as if we're going that way in the Nigerian situation. When I come back, I will now address the Nigerian situation properly. So we'll take a break and I'll be right back. Welcome back. Again, this is Point Blank. I'm here with you every Thursday discussing issues that of interest to me. And this week, it is about how we're starting to breed professional politicians in Nigeria. In the last several weeks, I've discussed the Senate in Nigeria. We've discussed the Senate president. How many of you are aware that the Senate president in Nigeria is actually a medical doctor? He's Dr. Bukola Saraki. I don't think he's ever practiced medicine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it seems right now that his entire life is about politics. Two-time governor in Kwara. Now he's on his second term in the Senate. He's done nothing more. That is what he does. There are 17 other governors or ex or past governors from Nigerian states that are in the Senate. 17. There are 3 deputy governors that are in the Senate. That is what we're starting to breed in our politics. That means that's a lot of power they're wielding. A lot of power. Coming from your state as an ex-governor and now being in the Senate, which is really a very unique body in the system in which we run, that controls a lot of power. That's what we're having. But that is not to say it is bad. There are arguments for legislators or people in power to be professional. There are arguments for and against it. Let us look at some of the arguments for it. In the American system, here is the argument that when you stay long enough, you become more committed. You also know the process of lawmaking. What are the arguments against it? The longer you stay, the tendency to be corrupt. And we use the word corrupt really lightly here. But the tendency is to bypass a lot of things. You also, of course, the big one is that the longer you stay, the tougher it is to get you out of power. Because you control everything. You control the news circle. You control money. And that's a little bit unfortunate. Now, let's look at the Nigerian system. Of what benefit is length of time in political office to the Nigerian system? I'll take a politician that I really admire a lot, the former governor of Lagos State, Raji Fashola. Since 1999, Fashola has been in Nigerian politics. First, as an assistant to the governor of Lagos State, Tinubu. Then I think he became a commissioner. Then a 2-time governor. That is 16 straight years. Where is he now? He's now a minister. Very likely, he's going to be there for 4 years. And if Buhari wins again, contests and wins again, he'll be there for another 8 years. That means that Fashola would have spent the bulk of his working years as a man in Nigerian government politics. Now, is it fair for me to say he's doing the wrong thing? No. He knows what he's doing. But what I'm saying is that we're breeding a new set of professional politicians. We will decide whether this is good for us or not. But let's look at all the others that we have. We have also Amechi. Amechi was in the Rivers House of Assembly. He was the speaker. He also then became the governor. Now he's a minister. Why do I bring this up? Why do I think this is important that we discuss on this program? I'm saying to my audience, to you, my audience, this is really my point-blank opinion. I think we're going the wrong path in our development in politics. Having professional politicians might be dangerous for us because we have nothing set in stone by way of infrastructure that can support our kind of politicians with what they can do. The story is out there that most of these ex-governors who are also senators, and there's no law against it, they are collecting their pension as ex-governors and collecting a salary as a senator. 2 weeks ago, I did a program on what these ex-governors earn, what their pension looks like. It's a whole lot of money. In a country that's struggling with its finances, this is not what we want to start to do now. But again, it's my opinion. I want you to get back to me. #Pointblank. Tweet at me at PJ Osagi. I need your comments because this is something that bothers me. But it is coming from me the way I see it. So we'll take another quick break. When I come back, I will give you more examples of why I think this is a wrong path for Nigeria to take. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to Pointblank. We have a system, especially in Nigeria, where we use the word impunity by those that lead us. They do things they like. They do things against all our laws. And we're starting to breed politicians who spend 20 years, 25 years in government from one position to the other. Now, the typical Nigerian politician who has any form of big position, Senate president, governor, minister, we know what they do. Hardly does any governor or minister travel the highways or the roads of that country without chasing others off the road. And we expect that in 20, 25 years after he's done that, you can imagine what kind of life he's lived. The Nigerian politician does his job best by bullying others. They chase us off the roads. They hold a whole aircraft hostage until they arrive. And we're starting to build more and more of those people within our system. I contend that it's best for us to have people who have other professions come into politics, spend a term or two, and move back into ordinary life. What we're doing now, is probably going to not show up in costing us now, but down the road, this will be very bad for our system. We have, like I said earlier, we have about 17 former governors that are now senators. We have about 4 former governors that are now ministers. It's a very small number, but it's a number we have to be concerned with because this is probably going to become the trend. Things are very trendy in Nigeria. We've got to be very careful with this. We need people that have been in the business of engineering. We need medical doctors to come into the system as ministers, to become into the system as governors. Serve some time and go back to private life. That is what can improve the country. People who bring outside experiences into governance. Not people who just decide that this is all they want to do. I'll go back to where we are here in the United States. Is it a problem in the United States? Not really, but we have a lot of their politicians that this is what they do. I'm not going to mention names, but there are a lot of American politicians from the day they left school, when I mean university, college. All they have done is maybe state Congress, then state senator, then, the federal Congress, and then they're now senators. We have people that have spent 50 years in the American Congress. But the difference is that they have a different system of governance. Impunity is not so much their issue. Look at what our ministers are asking for. I hope it is true, or not true in this case. They went to the president and are asking for 20 million in order to house themselves. 20 million. An American secretary, that's the equivalent of ministerial position, doesn't get any form of housing allowance. He has a salary, just like every American here, you have a salary. You buy your own house. If you can't buy a house, you rent a house in Washington, D.C., and you go home every weekend, or you squat with someone. There are a good number of American legislators, both in the Congress and in the Senate, that rent property and rent it with their staff because it's cheaper that way. That's what needs to happen. We have a system that is over-bloated, and we'll continue to make it bigger and bigger. 20 million, because what's the reason? That we need property where we can, that befits a minister. You probably have a house in Port Harcourt. You have a house in Lagos. Why should then the government give you money to rent property? I'm sure there's a little package in their salaries, That should be enough. But don't tell us what you need. You get what you need. We pay you enough, because this is a country that's actually struggling with money. We'll take one last break. When I come back, I will look right through these lenses and tell you exactly what we should not be doing. Welcome back. You're still watching Point Blank. This is a regular Thursday program where I'm giving you, as I see it, the way I see things. And today my issue has really been about Nigerian politicians, or the breeding of professional Nigerian politicians, people who do nothing else but politics, who sit in office from special advisor to commissioner to governor to senate or to minister. It's a rare breed. There are not that many, but it is starting. I believe it will start to affect us down the road. And I said before we took the break that here is something we should not do. Let us stop electing people that have no resume. I know people will say, what is a political resume? That's not what we're talking about. We want people who have done other things before. It's better for a system. If we're going to bring in an engineer that had a reasonable construction company, that has done things that we can all see, not necessarily really all see, but that has a resume that can be traced. That is the kind of things we need to start to do. We should not elect, or we should not look for politicians that have no resume. Let us stop believing that only certain Nigerians are good for politics. We're fusing, we're having smaller and smaller numbers of people going to politics. I discuss with my friends all the time. And when the question comes up, are you going to go to Nigeria or are you going to go into politics? They say, no, I'm not. And that's the simple truth. People have asked me the same question. I have no interest in Nigerian politics besides talk about it. I don't want to be a Nigerian politician. I think that is something we need to stop. If we're going to really complain, we have to be willing to be part of it. And lastly, in what I'm saying we should not be doing, let us stop encouraging bad behavior amongst our politicians. I hate to say something about a dead person, but we lost a minister a couple of months ago. He was driving in what we call a chain ride, where you have a lot of cars. His car blew a tire. The minister's car blew a tire, and we lost him. I think we lost his wife, and we lost a son. That's three in a family. He was a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He was riding. Look, I know people said it was a bad tire, or even they came out and said the driver didn't have a driver's license. The driver of a minister doesn't have a driver's license. How does that happen? But irrespective, they were obviously flying in those cars. That's the kind of bad behavior we encourage. It is still not something that we should be doing. This is 2016. I know a minister has to get to where he needs to go, but they can do it a little bit in a saner way. It's unfortunate we lost them, but it should tell us something about the impunity within our system. Here are things that I think we should be doing. We should elect the right people. And how do you know the right people? People should get together. The more I talk about politics of Nigeria with people out here in America, in Houston, the more I see people who could be best suited to lead small groups or small areas of the Nigerian society. That's what we should be doing. We should start to encourage ourselves into going into politics. We can leave politics for those that are doing it now. It's a small number. And they're going to get to a point that their kids will start to do it. I have nothing against Saraki, but the entire Saraki family is a political family. His father, Bukola himself, his sister. That's what they do. I don't know about Fashola's children, but this is what would happen if we don't go into politics in Nigeria or start to encourage ourselves to go into it. This will also then become a family trend. And that's what we don't want. So thanks for joining me this week on Point Blank. We'll see you same time, same place next week. My name is Patrick Omosagi.